Ashton Kutcher and Danny Masterson were close. So how much did he actually know about what Danny Masterson was doing? Plus, was Ashton Kutcher a Scientologist? And how close are these two now after the conviction? I wanted to get to the bottom of it, and so I was so excited that I got expert Aaron Smith-Levin to join us here on this episode. If you're unfamiliar with Aaron, he is the host and creator of Growing Up Scientology. As an ex-Scientologist, he's been exposing them for a while, and he's known a lot about this subject matter. So you're not going to miss this. A lot of burning questions are answered. So here, without further ado, our interview with Aaron Smith-Levin. What I want to talk also about is now everyone's talking about the backlash of Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis, and all the celebrities and he wrote the letter. Look, I could understand people trying to be loyal to a friend. There's that argument, right? But what was really weird to me was worse was they write these letters basically knowing the verdict. They're trying to support their friend. And then they're forced to make that apology video, which was one of the worst, most embarrassing, disingenuous apology videos I've ever seen in life ever. A lot of people are suspecting that Scientology put them up to this, the letter, the video. What are your thoughts? And what is the connection? Is Ashton part of Scientology as well? Could that be part of the reason for this defense?
He's actually definitely not a part of Scientology. I mean, it's weird. For a guy whose closest circle of friends was stacked with Scientologists, it is remarkable that Ashton never got into Scientology. And I can say for a fact that he didn't. Might he have done a little thing here for a few minutes or gone to this event? Sure. He was never a Scientologist. But Danny and his friends and his family and the Scientologists have a lot of blackmail on Ashton. And I'm not even, I can't sit before you and say, oh, they threatened him. I don't think they threatened him. Ashton is two peas in a pod with Danny. And I got to say, in a vacuum, I agree with you. You can't really blame a guy for wanting to, help throw his friend a little bit of a bone. But that's in a vacuum. If I'm Ashton Kutcher, I'm like, come on. You think me writing a nice letter to the judge is going to have an impact? I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole. The problem is the attorneys, to the best of my understanding and to the best of my knowledge, the attorneys basically gave all these people false confidence that their letters would never see the light of day. And honestly, if I'm Ashton and I think that's true, okay, fine. I might send a letter. If one of my best friend's family is begging me to do it and I think it's never going to see the light of day, I might do it. But I don't know, man. It's like that is rolling the dice. Like, you really think this letter's never going to see the light of day? But here's how I know that they thought that. I was in the courtroom for the sentencing, and the judge basically gave a little speech to the defense attorneys. It's like, I received your motion, and you filed it under seal, but we're not accepting it under seal. I've already told you nothing, almost nothing in my courtroom, barred for some personal safety reasons. And so for the attorneys to file it under seal like that means they told everyone that's what was going to happen, and everyone's like, oh great, it'll never see the light of day. And it's like, now, I don't think Scientology wrote the letters, right? But what I do think is that it's almost impossible to differentiate at this point between the Masterson family, the defense team, Scientology's defense team, and Scientology. They're all working in concert and in coordination with each other. What was crystal clear to me from reading through the letters is that someone, and probably someone on the Scientology side of the team, put together a framework for what notes everyone should be hitting in their letters. And that's why almost all the letters talk about Danny was so against drugs. Danny was so against drugs. It's a weird thing to be mentioned in 50 letters.
Yeah, it was very repetitive at times. It was.
And the problem with mentioning that, and because in Ashton's video, he's like, it wasn't meant to undermine the testimony of the Jane Does. I'm sorry. Part of the entire case is that Danny drugged all these women. And you're going to write a letter, Danny hated drugs. Danny didn't even want to be friends with people who took drugs. That's a total lie. Jimmy DeBello was one of Ashton and Danny's closest friends, who's an absolute out of his mind cokehead all the time. Like the fact that he wouldn't even associate with people who took drugs is not true. Mila Kunis herself, when she was with Macaulay Culkin, was on a mountain of drugs. I've heard so many stories from people who were at parties at Marilyn Manson's house and this place. I mean, insane. So you have Mila, who herself has been a close friend of Danny for 20 plus years or whatever, who's taken tons of drugs. being, oh, Danny would never associate with anyone who took drugs. Like, they're lying in their letters. And I think that's one of the reasons he's taking so much flack is it was so over the top. It was so over the top and stacked with lies. Yeah.
I mean, do you think, because would that justify some of the anger? Maybe they really didn't think it was going to get out. Do you think Danny and Ashton now will divide? Will Ashton still stand by his friend? I mean, it doesn't seem like he is, right? Because if you really believed your friend was innocent and you were angry, which it looks like Mila and Ashton were, you would come out and say so. Look, I don't believe these women. I think they're lying. I trust my friend. Here's why. And I would respect them a little bit more if they at least stuck to their guns, right? And had that sort of viewpoint. But they so quickly turned into that weird half-assed apology angrily. We believe victims! No, you don't. It was very weird. But do you think that means now Ashton and Danny are divided and done? Will Ashton just ghost him moving forward? What do you think the future is for that friendship?
If I had to guess, I would guess this is a major divide. But also, I think, I'm no body language expert, but I've watched that video like a gazillion times. And when Ashton says, there's a point in the video when he says, Danny's family reached out to us a couple months ago and asked us to write these letters. Mila looks at the camera and sort of raises her eyebrows like, mm-hmm. And what I take away is she's sitting there going, Danny's family screwed us by dragging us into this mess. So if I'm Ashton, first of all, I don't think Ashton does believe the Jane Does. Either that or he thinks, yeah, we know this happened, but what you're doing isn't justified. Like, Ashton personally knows the Jane Does. The fact that Mila ended her video by saying, our hearts go out to all victims everywhere. Why are you apologizing to all victims everywhere? Apologize to Jen, Nisha, and Chrissy. And if you'd done that, you could have taken that crap video and actually it would, if you actually said the names of the 3 women you were apologizing to, that video actually, I think, wouldn't have been scandalous. So, but the other thing I was going to say there is, if I'm Ashton, I'm probably more upset at Danny's family than I am at Danny. I'm guessing it was Carol who asked, a total guess, right? I doubt Danny called Ashton from prison to ask him to write a letter. Like, whoever got them to write the letters is I'm sure who they're angry at. And so, it's hard to know exactly what's going through Ashton's head, but I mean, it seems like this could be a career ender. Do you think I'm exaggerating? Is that
no? I mean, we had a PR expert on Molly. She's really great, and she did a TikTok, and she was so spot on. I think he needs to do an interview and completely own it and apologize and name the victims, like you said. Say, I think there's a version of this, right, where it's like, look, he's been my friend for 25 years. I never saw him do any of this. I believed him. At this point, though, I don't know what to do. Like, I think a lot of people could relate to that and understand that. And he needs to just full on apologize. And I think and she said it too, Molly, the PR expert, he needs to step away from Thorne and what he's doing, because the hypocrisy of Ashton Kutcher as this human trafficking, supporting the women and the victims, that is a awful distraction right now that he's now defending a convicted artist is not good for his brand. So I do think the massive damage control mode, and I'm shocked that anybody allowed this video out. Like, I don't understand how on earth this got through people and was posted on a social media account, because this made it so much worse. I think people would have forgiven the letters, honestly, that even the way they were, just because we didn't mean for it. We were defending a friend. The parents asked his daughter. There's justification. I think that people would have moved on eventually. The video where they then tried to apologize, clearly not apologizing, really sunk them. No, you disagree?
There's a reason why I don't believe we're going to see any follow-up videos from Ashton. And it has to do with his complicity in the type of behavior. If he comes out and tries to really smooth it over, people are going to start coming out of the woodwork. And I
they
mean,
already are. I've got lots of tips.
So here's what I mean. There's a Scientologist named Luke Watson. His mother was the president of the Celebrity Center. Luke Watson was a fixture in the day-to-day lives of a handful of these celebrities, but not the least of which was Danny and Ashton. Part of Luke Watson's job was the morning after to determine whether any of the women who had been slipped substances the night before seemed to be aware of the fact that that's what occurred. So there have been instances where Danny and Ashton together in certain hotel rooms, in certain locations, had relations with girls who had been drugged. And Luke's job was basically to take the girls' cell phones so nothing could be documented. And then the next morning when they woke up, to determine their state of mind. If the girl woke up and was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, and was like embarrassed and, oh my God, what happened? I don't remember anything. He'd be like, oh, okay, don't worry. Everything's fine. Here's your phone. You can go. You know, his job was to make sure, do the girls remember anything? Are they angry? Are they embarrassed? So if Ashton starts trying to pretend like his biggest mistake was just doing a bad apology video, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And again, that's why I say that I think part of the reason Ashton wrote the letter might have just been because maybe he felt like he didn't have a choice because they've got so much dirt on him. He can't turn on his friend at this point.
Right.
And maybe he was just really, 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 really counting on the fact that those letters weren't going to see the light of day. But guys, he's not the only one. He's not the only one. Giovanni Ribisi wrote a letter.
Yeah.
Other actors who are known to others but not well known to me wrote letters. And I'm going to get around to those guys eventually.
They can find you on Growing Up Scientology. He does a lot of great stuff over there. And if you missed our full conversation with Aaron, make sure to check out yesterday's live, which I'm going to put at the end of this video. Thank you so much, Aaron, for being here. Always a pleasure. Go subscribe to him as well as here. Hit the bell and stay tuned for more alerts on this topic and so much more.